The past 7 years, Nal'ibali, South Africa's Reading for Enjoyment campaign, has been celebrating World Read Aloud Day to raise awareness of the importance of reading aloud to children, more so in their mother tongues. Last year, with the help of the nation, Nal'ibali read aloud to over 1.5 million children, and this year they were hoping to reach 2 million children. We speak to Sithembiso Nhlapo. He is the provincial support coordinator for Nal'ibali for Gauteng and the Free State province. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good afternoon, sister.
So the campaign has been on for over 7 years. Let's just take stock and look at how things have been for the past 7 years. You were hoping for 2 million this year?
Yes, we are hoping and we are hopeful that that 2 million will be achievable. I think for the past 7 years, we've been slowly building up. I think the first year, on 2013, we have 13,000 children that we have read to. But I think with the partnership with the Department of Education that we are having, and the community organizations and NGOs within our communities and caregivers within our society, they have assisted us in the past years. And I think last year we were above 1.5, which was a good number, and we're hoping that this year an addition of 500,000 is possible.
Yeah. So how does it work? As you say that you read aloud to them.
Yes.
So take us through the processes and how do you go about choosing those children?
Not necessarily we're choosing children. There's a story that is normally been created on that every year. Okay. As this is an annual event, we have different authors. This year we have World Read Aloud, who's one of our famous writers who did the story for today. So what we get, once we get the story, we distribute it to schools through channels of Department of Education, to community organizations that we work with, because we have partnerships within the community organizations that are within that works with children on day-to-day basis. We engage with communities, we go to public spaces where there are a lot of people. We engage with them and make an awareness around World Read Aloud Day, the importance of telling stories, the importance of reading aloud to children. And then I think that's where it builds up, and we go a lot into schools and we engage with libraries. So that's where we actually get into a point where we get numbers of children that have been read to. It's because we go down to the ground and engage with different stakeholders within the communities that we're within.
All right. And how do we do it as parents? Because remember, Sithembiso, when we were growing up, we used to have our grandmothers who would sort of tell stories or narrate stories and tales to us or read to us. So how do we do it in this day and age where technology has taken over our lives?
Look, I think we believe that storytelling and reading aloud are building blocks to learning, and they play a very critical role in our education system. That's why we're saying that storytelling and reading as an organization can be a game changer within our education system. I think the old ways of telling stories is still key, and I think with the new technology we can take advantage of it, because we have stories on our website that we share, that parents can go to and look at stories, and those stories are in all 11 languages that we have in South Africa. So parents can go into those technology using their phones, tablets, their computers. Then they can download stories, various stories, and very exciting stories that they start sharing with their children. So we are saying we should not change how the current situation is, but how do we get
enhance
into the
it,
enhance it and get into the space, so that we just say, no, let's shut down the technology, but technology can also help us to actually tell the stories that we want to pass over to children.
All right. So what has the response been? Because with this campaign, you encourage us to read to our children aloud in their mother tongue. How has the response been? Because of late, English has taken over as well.
Look, the response has been amazing from the communities and from schools. We get emails, you get calls from different people that want to participate into this activity. And I think in the last couple of years have been a very good example of what has been a response from the community or from the country at large, and how the participation has grew. And I think by us also inviting ambassadors to come and assist us and making sure that the campaign grows as big and people are becoming aware of the importance of this particular day. Even though we're not saying this is the only day, but we are saying people should read to children on a day-to-day basis. But this is one of the significant part of the flagship events that we are having as Nal'ibali, and say today we're having this one story that we want to share, and we want people and parents, caregivers and educators to take time and tell stories to children today and read it aloud to children today. Yes.
But a person who maybe this watching interview from your deepest rural areas somewhere here in the country may say that, listen, we would love to do this, but we don't have access to the books. We don't have any libraries in our area, which can be an impediment to this particular campaign.
Yes. I think what we are trying to, or doing our utmost best, and I think we having we are in almost 8 provinces in the country, and we're trying all means to reach those deep rural areas, and with community organizations that we are working with, and because we can't reach each and every person, but with the work and assistance with other organizations and partnership that we are forming, we are able to reach more people. I think, but also what is important, like I said, we have our websites and our where people can log into our mobile site, but also we're using radio as part of telling stories and sharing stories. I think on SABC in the morning, or all SABC channel, radio stations have the stories that people who are in deep rural areas have an opportunity.
I think I've heard
to
some
share.
partnership with SABC Education, isn't
Yes,
it? Oh,
yes,
okay.
we're having, and every day we're having stories, almost every day we're having stories in their own mother tongue languages in those communities. So I think in most cases in deep rural communities, that's where people have access to radios, and they can listen to the radios. And we're saying that in that case, when you're listening to kind of stories, you can take that story and retell it to the children when they come back to school, because they play during the day. So when as a parent you are listening to that radio station, you can listen to that story and retell it, and you can spice it around. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to retell it the way it is. You can spice it around, make it fun for children,
Make it fun
because
for them,
that's the purpose of the story. Because when you are sitting on our fire, on our greenies tell stories, they used to be fun and exciting. They used to make actions, and they were like, I want to hear more of these stories. I want to hear
It will also
more.
improve their listening ability as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think most importantly, this campaign will actually help a country, because we're sitting at nearly 80% of grade 4 learners who cannot read with comprehension in any language. So at the same time, this will help in that regard.
I think that's our biggest goal, plan is to, if we can see that number being reduced to 0. And that's why we're trying by all means to say these kind of activities that we're having, like World Read Aloud Day, are those campaigns, those flagship events that we're trying by almost best to say people should start engaging. Because when you say storytelling, like I said earlier on, that reading and writing can be a game changer in all subjects in schools, meaning that if we have children who are being read on a day-to-day basis, who are immersed in reading and writing activities, we can actually change in how children perceive the education, because they see only, understand going to school only, but there's also fun part of reading and writing. But if once we can make that reading and writing fun and exciting for them at the early age, then it can
creates
then
an interest of reading as well.
So that it becomes easy and exciting for them to indulge in their books, because mathematics and science, it's reading. You can't do maths without reading what want you to do. So I think reading and writing becomes a very critical aspect of what we want to promote in the community, and saying parents should start reading to children so that children can be immersed in reading and writing on day-to-day basis.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming
very
through.
much.
All right, well, there you have it. Sithembiso Nhlapo, Provincial Support Coordinator for Nal'ibali for Gauteng and Free State Province. Let's